Welcome to the Islamic Pod, the official podcast of Islamic Media. Here at Islamic Media, we aim to share information about the world through an Islamic perspective. On this podcast, we share journeys as well as stories of excellence rooted within faith through a variety of guests from all over the world. We hope you enjoy. On this episode, we had the opportunity to talk to Sajjaad Khader. Sajjaad holds a bachelor's and master's in computer science from the Georgia Institute of Technology. He received both of these at the age of 20 years old. He currently works as a full-stack developer and has a large social media presence with over 300,000 followers across different platforms. His story is one of excellence not only in his career, but also within his involvement within his community, from his time as MSA president to his current involvements within his local community and masjid. As always, we hope these conversations prove beneficial to those of you listening. Jazakallah khair and enjoy. Have you been on a podcast before?
Yeah, I have actually. Yeah.
Podcast.
This college student podcast wanted to basically ask about my journey about computer science, how to learn things and all that stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, this is a podcast where we're going to say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh first.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, alhamdulillah. So, first thing I'm going to do is just give some context on this episode for the people watching.
Okay.
And then we'll have our conversation.
Awesome.
But I met Sajjaad very randomly yesterday evening at another event. So some of you guys might be aware, but there is an incubator called Alif that one of your friends, Yasin, is also part of. And they're the first Muslim incubator that exists in San Francisco. And because of that, we got to cross paths, and now we're having this conversation. But the reason I wanted to have this conversation with Sajjaad was because there's a very big trend going around I think eventually we're going to get to this, but I also want to know a little bit more about your life. But there's a very big trend going around where in the world of social media, a lot of people are entering it either as a watcher or as a creator. And there's, pitfalls with both, obviously. Yeah. But there's not that many Muslim creators from the lens of, we don't really understand what it takes from a person. And I truly wholeheartedly believe, even if you're a Muslim not making content on Islam, you're still someone who makes content, for example, when it comes to you, on computer science or other things as well. I think you can always learn something as a Muslim from lens of creating and putting things out there. 100%. And the kind of responsibility it takes and the kind of motivations that you have. Yeah. Because even though your motivations, might come off to someone who is not a Muslim as this is a good cause or all that stuff. It's always deeper, a little bit deeper. Yeah. And I know it's deeper for you because for sure. We talked you were the MSA president at one point and you had a journey in that regard. But before we dive into all that stuff, that was just an introduction for everyone who's going to watch. What I'm really curious about is who you are, because I don't know that much either. Okay. But I'm very interested, when your kind of journey started. And I guess by journey started, I mean, when you became an active player in your own life. Because to me, watching you, it seems like you've always had a motivation. You've always carried something. You were 20 when you graduated undergrad, right? You finished a master's. Oh, you were 20 when you graduated your master's. Am I right?
I was 20 when I graduated master's. Yeah.
That's insane, right? That means someone has to move with purpose.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, when did moving with purpose begin for you? When did that actually start?
So to be very honest, I can kind of pinpoint it. It was at ICNA, which is a huge Muslim conference. There was a speech by Numan Ali Khan in which he was just talking about having pursuit in your life. There's a famous, not a famous, but a well-known verse in the Quran, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها, that Allah does not burden a soul beyond their capacity. And a lot of people take that, that's why we aren't burdened. We only pray 5 times a day. We only fast 30 days of Ramadan. But if you really look at it wholeheartedly, that means everything within your capacity, Allah burdens you upon. So every person, I believe, has given unique traits, unique skills. You're obviously really good at media, good at podcasting, good at talking to people. I, alhamdulillah, have been blessed with sort of being inclined towards math, computer science, also talking to people in general. And so these are the traits that Allah has given me. What can I do to serve Allah's purpose? And kind of going from there, I've been blessed being in America, being given by 2 amazing parents, being blessed with an education in so many different ways. How can I use that to do something greater? And so college obviously is a cost, and I wanted to minimize that cost and maximize the gain. That's obviously why, even in high school, I took 13 different AP courses. I took 7 dual enrollment courses because I knew at the end of the day, this will benefit me in some regard. I can save costs. I can move faster and I can get to my goal. Because I knew, like, through talking to some people, through just like my own personal interactions, that college is not the end all be all. Like, yes, I went to a great school like Georgia Tech, but that is just a means to an end. It's like a stepping stone along the way. And so I just really wanted to kind of get there, and then use that as a launch pad for my career, and then use that career as a launch pad for potential business. You know, so it's always like, what's next, what next? But at the central point is, what impact can I have in the cause and the way of Islam, in Allah's way.
So what age were you at when you saw the Muhammad Ali Khan talk?
I was in 8th grade, so I was about 13 years old, I think.
So you had more clarity than most 8th graders.
Yeah, I mean, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, fair. And then for high school, you said you took numerous AV classes. You accelerated your path through high school. So like, did you just do 4 years? Or did you
No. So high school was regular.
Okay.
High school was a regular 4 years, but while in high school, I took college level courses. Yeah. So college level courses, I took certain like extracurriculars to get me like, you know, college applications. You got to stack that up.
Yeah. And then for college undergrad,
Yeah,
that was finished and completed in conjunction with the master's at 20, or did you finish the undergrad first and then do the master's?
So I finished the undergrad first, but in the last year of my undergrad, so I did my undergrad within 2 years.
Okay.
But the last year of undergrad, so the second year of undergrad, I took master's level courses.
Okay.
And so that allowed me to finish my master's within 1 year. So it's like what you call an accelerated BSMS program. Traditionally, it's a 4+1, but I did it as a 2+1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dang. That's crazy. So I'm curious about your journey in college then, because it sounds like it's really hectic. It sounds like, to me, right? So maybe you can clarify this for me, but did that take anything out of you? Like doing that, like kind of like heavy loaded approach, or like how did you balance that? Like,
you see, it actually wasn't heavy loaded.
Okay.
It was I tell everyone, it was well planned, not heavy loaded.
Okay.
Like, by the time I got to college, I had 60 credits completed, and a degree in computer science at Georgia Tech is 126 credits.
So you're halfway done.
So I'm halfway done.
Yeah.
So I'm literally taking a regular load as if like I'm in the last 2 years of my college experience going as a freshman. And so it didn't take like anything out of me. I took between like 16 to 20 credits every semester, which albeit some of the time was during COVID, so the remote life made it a little easier. There wasn't like many distractions.
Yeah.
But I still did have my fun. I still like went out. I still had like a bunch of friends. I was MSA president, which is a club of like 200 plus members.
Yeah.
I still managed to get internships. So
how did you manage to go to MSA president in 2 years?
So yeah, I guess I was MSA president my second year.
Okay.
So my first year, I just really wanted to get out of my bubble. Like I think in high school, if anything, high school was harder for me than college in that like I was taking so many AP courses, I was taking a lot of extracurriculars, I was doing a lot of things just for the sake of getting into college. But I think once I got into college, I kind of understood the game a little more. It's not too much about academics, it's more about the career stuff. So I also just knew that I needed to meet people, I needed to get out, because a huge advantage of college is the networking, the social circles. So I went to literally like every single MSA meeting, every single non-official like hangouts, hanging out late at like people's apartments, just like chilling and having a good time. And so like I made a lot of friends throughout that time. I went to every event, so I knew how to run events, and eventually like people just trusted me, you know, like you do stuff enough time, people see it, trust you, and then put you in position of authority.
Yeah. So do you think that experience, like not even just MSA, like maybe any other leadership experience in college, how does that tie into your like career orientation? Like how did that change you as a person? Because a lot of people who might be watching this podcast, they're in the position that, because this world is very like dunya. We're getting more into this world of like capitalism. People are starting projects. Like everyone here in SF is building a company. Yeah. There's always a chase for something. Right. And my biggest fear has always been like, at what cost? At what cost do you lose yourself? Right. So you clearly had an emphasis around like, I need to go see people. I need to meet people. Whether it's MSA or whether it's other organizations. How did that tie into like the kind of like person you are now, like, but at that time, I'm not trying to say who you are now, because we're gonna get to who you are now. But, like, at that time, how did you perceive yourself? Like you say you're stepping out of your like box, but why even step out of your box? Why not just chase like the excellence in the career per se? Like, what was the motivation behind that? Why would you do that to yourself? Because communities are
Yeah,
tough,
yeah.
also, right?
Yeah.
It draws something out of you sometimes, especially when you're the president.
Yeah.
I know firsthand because I'm the president next year,
Yeah.
and things come up, you know,
Yeah.
things that are not easy,
Uh-huh.
and sometimes you're just like, why am I doing this? Like,
Yeah.
I can go and just be making money and living my own selfish life, and I'd be perfectly like, I'd be feeding myself.
Yeah.
But why try to not feed yourself? Like, why feed just people around you?
So going back to the point I brought from the beginning is having an impact in Allah's way.
Yeah.
And I think at that point, the best thing that I could have done is be in that position to help people. So like my freshman year, when I didn't know anyone, actually the MSA president at that time, he was very welcoming. He was like DMing me as a freshman and be like, hey, come to this event. And like just putting it into perspective, like a freshman who knows no one, who's intimidated, shy potentially, or more introverted. Like I was probably more introverted in high school than I am now. I don't have the guts maybe to go to all these events, but he kind of pulled it out of me. And so I saw that as like, hey, he's bringing me to an MSA community, a Muslim community in a university where there's a lot of haram, bad things you can do. He's helping me find a group of friends. I'm like, I need to do that now. I need to be like, even like if I can impact one freshman and bring him closer to the MSA, closer to all like our Jummah prayer events, that's working in the way of Allah.
Yeah.
You know? And I think whenever you do something like such as that, it'll also help you out. Like being an MSA president, I think it's a really good opportunity. Like I think what you're doing is excellent because it gives you leadership qualities, but also within the lens of Islam. So like obviously we know a lot of leaders sometimes are corrupt, right? Yeah. sometimes, right? But being an MSA president, you have to abide by the principles of Islam, right? If someone's like straggling or not doing all their work, you can't just scold them. You can't just curse them out. You have like certain principles and established. You learn patience. You learn how to deal with people. Because as MSA president, you're not just the leader of the club. You're the leader of the executive board. And sometimes you're vice president. Sometimes a certain chair, a secretary doesn't do all their tasks, even if they're pulled into that position. So you have to be able to motivate them, pull them out of that, make them see the vision of having an impact on people.
Yeah. Did you ever? What was your first job out of college? I'm curious.
Job out of college?
Yeah.
So I had internships, but right after I graduated, I joined my software engineering job at Splunk.
Okay. Do you feel like the teamwork you learned from the leadership teams in college helped you with the teamwork on these engineering teams?
I can say in some regard the communicative aspects, because I think that obviously like when you go work a corporate job, you're going to have your ups and downs. You're going to have to deal with maybe critical feedback, maybe like difficult teammates, coworkers. But being able to be patient and seeing the bigger picture, like, sure, hey, you don't do this one thing, I'm going to get mad at you. But if I get mad at you and attack you in some way, that might affect my promotion because I need your peer review to get up there. So I'm going to be patient with you. I'm going to address you kindly. I'm going to like treat you nicely because at the end of the day, I have my principles, but also it'll help me out. You know, I basically see the further vision now, I think.
Yeah. So you came out of college, started at Splunk. Okay, wait. Let me like rewind a little bit. Okay. Graduated college at 20.
Yeah.
Started at Splunk 21, 20?
No, 20. Like the month after graduation.
After graduation. Okay, and then you stayed there. How long? Are you still there?
I'm still there.
Yeah, you're still there. So it's been how many years there?
So 2 years and 1 month.
So you're 22.
Yeah, I'm 22 now.
Okay, that's great. We're the same age. I'm making my first paycheck at the age of 35.
No.
Yeah. Okay. So you're there, and you're doing that full time.
Yeah.
And on the side, you've created this like social media persona around helping other individuals who are computer science or engineering, or you talk a little bit about financial transparency. You talk about quite a range of topics within the realm of like professional development. I would say. So like, when did that start? Like when did that start exactly? Like,
so I started posting on YouTube September 2020, so during COVID.
What was the motivation behind that first video?
So behind that first video, literally the same exact motivation, having an impact in Allah's cause, helping people. Because once again, I'm a very privileged individual to be able to have the experiences, have the education. I need to give back. You know, especially during COVID when you're locked up at home, just like doing whatever, doing your life, enjoying your life. Like, I feel like useless in some way, you know? Like I need to help people. I need to do something with my life, something of significance, you know? Especially like once again, like some politicians, so some celebrities, they aren't always the best people,
Sure.
right? They say weird things outwardly. But I need to have a voice. I need to put my own voice, a positive impact, a positive influence out there in the world. And so kind of going into that, so September 2020 till about like June 2021, I was posting like 3 times a week, a lot of content on YouTube, but I only got like 1,000 subscribers. So I wasn't really hitting the numbers or getting like the views or the eyeballs or the ears that I was anticipating.
Right.
So I took a little break just trying to understand the algorithm a little more, trying to understand like my own direction in that field. And then last year, June of 2023, I started posting on Instagram and TikTok. Kept posting, hoping to help people. Got a little more traction because it's a little easier to grow on short form than long form, but still it was like a little slow. Between June to September, I made 200 posts. I had about 1,000 followers. And then finally I got one viral post that kind of boosted my page. And now we're sitting here, July 2024.
Yeah, that's crazy. 200 posts is a lot.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Did you lose motivation at any point?
I was definitely like the couple weeks before that viral post, I was like making a lot of dua. I was like, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
Like, what am I missing? I felt like I knew I could do it. Like, I felt that like kind of like fire in me.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm missing some information. I need to do something, you know? But thankfully, I was able to study the algorithm and try out different things, and it worked out.
Yeah. What was the title of your first video?
My first video on YouTube?
Yeah, what was like the point of the video? Like,
It was literally an introduction to my channel. I think I called it Introduction to my channel about Sajjaad Khader. And I was like, yeah, I am this person. I go to Georgia Tech, blah, blah, blah. I'm making this channel to help people based on my experiences.
Yeah.
Literally what I described the last 2 minutes.
yeah. Okay, fair. And then your most recent video, what was that one?
My most recent video.
That you remember.
The most recent video I posted on Instagram?
YouTube.
On YouTube.
Yeah. 'Cause I'm really curious to see like how you qualify your success almost. Like not, I don't want to say success even. I want to say like you clearly have a mission behind why you do certain things, right? But I'm curious to see like what's the effect of it, and then what effect you feel like you have, as well as what effect I've seen you have on other individuals. So before we get into that, what is like the most recent video that you think you filmed or remember that you filmed?
Yeah, so the most recent video, it went up 2 weeks ago. It's titled "The Collapse of the 9-to-5 Software Engineering Job." Basically showing how software engineering is changing. The traditional like tech work life that people are used to, especially since after COVID, especially since after a lot of the layoffs that happened, a lot of like changes in the tech field, what's going on now. So just giving my own perspective as a person who's kind of been through this transitional period, and helping others kind of navigate that situation.
Yeah. And so what effect do you see happening on the people who like watch your content? Like, I don't want to even say necessarily like what effect that you wish you have, because I do know the effect that you wish you have. Like, it's very clear that you're very well motivated and intentioned with like helping people navigate almost like these like career paths, and then figure out what's best for them also. Because I've watched a couple of your videos, and this was back when I was CS. This must have been like, this was probably around the time you were launching. This was probably when you had the viral videos.
Oh, okay.
So I saw it like once, twice, watched it. A week later, I was in pre-med, so I stopped watching it. But when I did, I was like, what I got from you and some other creators in this field is like, there's a very transparent, like this new generation of transparency almost, like this is the truth behind the matter. And we have other people around creating other things like levels.fyi, which is a hair created. Like the idea of that is financial transparency. And the reason why I enjoy and like all this stuff as myself, like speaking from my end, is because in a world that is already capitalistic, that is like looking to make money off other people, that's the way that it all works. Knowing at least what you're getting yourself into and why you're getting into it has become more important than ever, because you, at this point, you have to do a job to make some kind of money. Like, whether you like what you're doing or not, at the end of the day, it's like
pay bills.
Survival has become equated to how much dollars can you make, unless you like completely dip out of this country. Right. But to dip out of the country, you still need money. So I know that was a bit abstract, but what I'm trying to get to is, what is the effect that you're hoping to have on people who are watching your videos? Like, what do you wish that they walk away with after watching that video? Like, not just a specific video, but like your overall concept of yourself
So So are you asking the impact I wish I had, or that I know I have right now?
A mixture of both.
Okay.
Like,
So I just kind of think of back when I was in college, wanting to get into software engineering. I always thought of it like a black box.
Yeah.
Like the Silicon Valley engineers are these amazing people sitting behind multiple monitors, coding, working on high impact tools that people use all across the world, earning great money. And that was like my whole perception. But how to get there? There's no class per se how to get there. There are like things that you can like try to piece by and like understand, but like it was mainly like the people who've been through it, like either current software engineers or software engineering intern upperclassmen that I had to ask for advice for. Hey, can you review my resume? Hey, can you give me interview tips? Hey, can we do a mock interview? And so like if I were to just condense all that into like a social media page or like a YouTube channel, that's sort of the impact I was hoping to have, and I'm very glad that I'm able to have. In fact, like as part of my content, I actually give a lot of people like resume template that they can use, and I've gotten so many DMs saying, "Hey, your resume template helped me land X amount of interviews. Hey, I finally got an internship for this summer. Thank you so much for all your tips and like your interview tips or resume tips." And I'm actually able to see that like on my videos, a lot of people are saving them, meaning that they're going back to them and using them for actually like the interviews and. I just want to sort of demystify this whole process because it was always like a black box to me at first. And now that I'm in it, I'm like, guys, it's not that deep.
Yeah.
Just use this. You can get to this position easily.
Yeah. Where do you plan on going with all of this? Like, not just social media, but like, you're 22.
Yeah.
Like, we know the Prophet was 40 when he started. Like, we're very early in the game. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, where do you plan on all this going? Like, have you thought about it?
Yeah. So like, obviously right now I'm just continue trying to grow my page. I'm able to kind of grow my authority and influence in this sphere. Like for example, this last April of this year, I was invited out to an AI conference in Vegas. Obviously, I'm here at Aleph because of like sort of my presence online.
Yeah.
So I want to use this as a launch pad to kind of gain more network, grow my network, and potentially start things to have bigger impacts on people, whether that be in the tech educational sphere, whether that be like a tool. So right now I'm kind of in the stage where I understand how to do my content. Now it's like I need to learn more of the business side or a bigger picture type thing to provide more impact, you know?
Yeah. So you're still impact driven, but you're trying to figure out where that impact lies.
Yeah. It's like one way I'm having impact is by talking to people, by providing content. Another thing is I can actually provide services or product to help people.
Yeah. And you're still fostering that community. Like even the other day when I saw like the head starter thing, the event that you were at, right? Like
I hope to continue to do that.
Yeah.
I'd love to honestly get more like in-person, face-to-face interaction because like sometimes sitting behind a phone for so long is kind of like, but yeah.
But I was gonna say like that was something I haven't seen before from like the CS community, like or computer science engineering community. Like at least when I was in it, there was no like energy in person almost. Like everyone's creating stuff online. So I was like energized with that too. I was like, maybe if this existed when I was in CS, I might have stuck with it. Like
it was refreshing to see.
Yeah. And everyone was very excited. So like I think the aspect of like community too. That's something which in Islam is like huge. Right?
Yeah.
Like that's all it's literally everything that like that's why the Prophet had like the Sahaba were his friends.
Yeah,
they
exactly.
They weren't just like soldiers or this or that. Like it was a whole rounded. They were soldiers, they were mentors, they were teachers, but they were also his friends.
Yeah.
So it's like
you need people.
Yeah, you need people. And things like Alif are like trying to accomplish that. Like let's get Muslims together.
Yeah.
Each of them has a different specialty. Not everyone's a sheikh, but everyone has a value system, a grounded value system, and why they're trying to do things, and the motivations and the intentions are correct. Yeah. Which I think is lacking in a lot of institutional spaces.
For sure, yeah.
Governmental or institutional. Don't come after me, please. But So on that note, I'm curious about what you think is lacking in like this space that you're working in. Because usually when you're looking at it, even from a content perspective, you highlight a problem, and then you fix it. Like you figure out how to solve that problem. Yeah. As an engineer, that's like the entire essence of the entire engineer. As a doctor, there's a problem, it's broken, you got to fix it. So like, have you given thought to like what are the inherent issues that lie within the field that you're working in?
Are you talking about social media or software engineering, or?
It could be either.
Because there are tons of problems in social media, and then within the software engineering space, I guess the problem is that I was saying is like it's very like the perceptions of it are very, very wrong. Like it's like
Right.
all these pretentious high class people
Yeah.
that just code and like earn big money.
Yeah.
So like that's kind of like my mission to like demystify it and help people enter into this field.
No matter where they're at.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's why actually like when ChatGPT came out or when Devin came out,
Yeah.
there was so much hysteria about people, oh my God, we're gonna lose our jobs.
Yeah.
But guess what? The Devin AI was that demo was heavily exaggerated.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have been possible for people to be that fearful of Devin if they had an understanding of, hey, this is actually how the AI works. Hey, this is actually like
Yeah.
all the tools. And so like we need to educate ourselves about these AIs, about these LLMs, and actually get an understanding of what they do on the back end of the system, not just be like, oh, hey, AI this, AI that, AI that. Like AI is now used as like a marketing term almost,
Yeah.
a way to be like, oh my God, you're doing such cool things because AI is there, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
people really need to have a strong understanding. Tech education is huge.
Yeah.
It's actually like a growing field in this upcoming decade because so many people are just genuinely curious and
Yeah.
they genuinely want to learn. So if you're watching this, you better learn AI.
Yeah. So when it comes to your learning process, are you centering your focus on AI, or are you like, because obviously within engineering you have like fields like machine learning,
Yeah.
AI, like people like who are like physics oriented within like software.
Yeah.
You can work for companies that are, you can work in a field in CS that is
Yeah.
not AI.
Yeah.
But for you, are you like centering your focus on AI?
As best as I can. Like
Okay.
when I was in college, so I did a computer science degree,
Yeah.
but both my undergrad and grad had specializations or like concentrations within AI. So I
Yeah.
took a bunch of different AI courses. So I got like a little bit of a understanding of like basic like algorithms and how like the math of it like
Yeah.
works a little bit. Then like in my team, like we do like some ML AI work. So I get like a little experience there.
Yeah.
And then just generally from like my network that I've grown through social media, like the conference, it was like so much about the AI that we learned. We learned a lot of Copilot tools that like
Yeah.
generate so much code for you. A lot of like I got to talk to AI leads, global AI strategists to talk about like what they're working on and how much time they saved with this model versus this model.
Yeah.
So it's just I'm continuously learning. Like I'm no expert by any means,
Yeah.
but I'm just kind of trying my best to learn as best as I can, and also using it as a tool.
Yeah.
You know,
Not as a way to cheat.
Yeah, experiential learning. There's nothing that tops that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen any instances of AI and Islam mixed, like Hadith GPT? Have you seen that?
I've seen Tortilla AI.
Oh, Tatila.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on like cultural? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Basically, like
I love it.
Yeah.
It's good. Tortilla. I saw like one demo of like it helps you memorize the Quran.
Yeah.
And I think I tried it out. I don't remember exactly if I tried it out, but yeah, it was just fascinating to see. I think it's if we can like proliferate that across the world.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people can learn and get very well educated
From a useful tool perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's I'll give you a little bit about me.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
is why like I'm asking all these questions, because I found that sadly the current Muslim world and state change is almost perceived as bad because the change is being led by like entities that we don't agree with. But change was never bad. Right?
Yeah.
Improvement was never bad.
Yeah.
It's just that we're not at the forefront of it now. So in a lot of ways, sometimes Muslims can feel threatened by that stuff.
Yeah.
So things like Tartil AI it stood out to me as well, because I'm like, this is an application of something that is useful to us as Muslims. And the reality of the situation, like there's another software company within Alif, which is called Boycat, which is a boycotting app that you can scan any barcode with, and it can show you things to boycott because they're funding things that should not be funded.
Yeah.
And we actually have the founder of that episode coming on in an episode soon.
Yeah.
But I was talking to him about this because he was saying that the majority of users on Boycat are not Muslim. Like,
Okay.
Which was surprising to me because
Yeah.
he himself is a Muslim founder.
Interesting.
And it's boycotting Israel progress,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it's like, like you would expect it to have Muslims. You would expect the majority of people to be using it as Muslims. But he said that almost like a majority of them are not Muslim users. They were the majority of them were people who were conscious of what their effect was on the world. And so the reason why I
That's
asked,
good.
which is great,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
what you need, right? But the reason I ask this question is because it's almost like we've slowed down our initiative to change because there are other entities and other powers that are changing things for us.
Yeah.
And we've become averse to change, averse to development, averse to creation. Like, for example, like startups, right?
Yeah.
Because we always get stuck at the point like this is too much like them, or this is like has too many problems, or you're working with institutions that are wrong. For example, banking.
Yeah.
Right? Huge conversation in the Islamic world. Like, how do you bank properly?
Yeah.
But the reality is, you're not gonna just like magically have a bank appear that's perfect.
Yeah.
You have to make steps towards it.
Yeah.
Right? So even like the Islamic banks that currently operate, they're not perfect.
Yeah.
But there's eventually we're gonna get to a point where we can hit that stuff like Wahid.
Yeah.
Right? Like those are the things that are doing that. But my interest has always been is changing a culture shift, and I think it's happening within the next generation of like young Muslims, as well as the next generation of like human conscious people who understand that there are certain values and limits and lines that you can't cross. And social media has opened our world and eyes to that. And it's enabled people who typically haven't had the power to have that communication. For example, people like you at this age, in this space, to not be able to communicate to 200,000, 300,000 plus people. So, yeah, that's why I asked those questions. But that was a little bit synopsis of what I'm interested in. So that brings me to my like next question, which is, do you see yourself as almost like a mentor, like when it comes to social, not to social, like when it comes to social media, but specifically within the computer science world, or do you see yourself as someone who is going to be developing the next like level of like, you know, the next software, the next tool, whatever it may be? We talked about this a little bit. Like, what are your next steps? What are you thinking about? But like, how do you contextualize that? So that's like that for yourself when it comes to the cultural shift and implications that you're trying to have on people, because you're clearly you're saying you're trying to help people figure out this process and demystify things. So you're causing a culture shift of some sort. But within the greater concept, like, why do you think your piece fits in that whole puzzle of things? Like, in a way, like, why do you think you're doing what you're doing? Like, from a perspective of like, what exactly are you trying to shift within a person's mind? Very abstract question.
I see what you're getting at, and the point on like the cultural shift, I think it's important that we adapt to the times that we're living in. I mean, like, we don't want to still be riding on camels as like Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did. Like, there are necessary changes that we need to take, and in fact, like, change, like, especially like, for example, like on social media, a lot of people say social media is trash, it's bad. But guess what? It can bring so much awareness, like, especially what's going on in Gaza. Like, it's good in that regard. Like, a lot of people were uninformed. Or like, for example, do you know Brownie Saudi? Amazing. Like, one of my friend TikTok, he makes TikToks on Islamic content, and obviously, like, a lot of Muslims know him. But in fact, I met like a non-Muslim the other day, and he's like, "This guy is my source of learning about Islam," and it was TikTok videos. Like, TikTok is a way of pursuing da'wah, right? Like, who would have thought, right? And so I think it's good to get your voice out there and have an impact in any way. And at least for me, like, I teach about computer science. I don't teach about Islam itself. But all knowledge, the source of it, is from Allah. Like, there's no Islamic knowledge and secular knowledge. It's all at the root cause from Allah. Like, in some sort of way, the way that Allah developed the systems, the way Allah developed the heavens and the earth, all of it is from Allah. And so, like, anything that I can share is, in fact, like a form of sadaqul jariyah in a sense. Like, the good education that you can teach people, that is a form of sadaqul jariyah. Now, like, for example, if I teach someone, hey, this is how to become a software engineer, and then they end up becoming a high-paying software engineer, and they donate their money to masjids, or they develop communities, or they feed people who are starving out there in the world.
It's part of your
That's a huge positive impact, right? Like, we need to push people. And in fact, like, what I try to do, like, although I mainly talk about tech, I also do sprinkle in sometimes, hey, like, I'm a Muslim, or hey, I recently went on Hajj, because at the end of the day, I'm Muslim first. Even though, like, my expertise might be in software engineering, I am Muslim first by identity. And so, kind of like mixing in the fact that I am a Muslim and I'm not afraid to show it off, that you can be a great Muslim software engineer or a great Muslim in general, like, in any way, that is kind of like the image I want to put. Like, the mission might be like to teach people about like software engineering, but the image of like my personal brand is I'm a Muslim software engineer.
It also shifts the culture stereotype of like brown people going into computer science.
It's
like, no, I am a brown person who is doing a bunch of things. But I happen to have an expertise in computer science. Right?
Exactly.
And it's no longer a chase of like, oh, I just need to become an engineer. It's more like I want to make an impact as an engineer.
Exactly.
Right? It's a tool underneath your belt. And I love that you said, like, all knowledge comes from Allah too, because like, in my opinion, as long as the knowledge or whatever you're doing is not inherently like haram,
Yeah.
that's the best way of putting it.
Yeah.
Knowledge is knowledge.
Yeah.
Knowing things is knowing things. Like
Mhm.
development, a lot of the golden age of like Islam, right? A lot
Yeah.
of the development that happened during the Ottoman Empire, a lot of the development that happened during the Caliphate Empire.
Yeah. Like algebra, right?
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Why would you ever invest yourself into algebra? Right?
Yeah.
The question is like clearly because there's a benefit to it.
Yeah.
There's a beneficial like value to it.
Yeah.
And I don't know when we got stuck in this whole mindset of like, let's not push boundaries. Let's
Yeah.
not like push
I don't know.
ourselves, right?
Yeah, I think there's a hadith where seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every believer or upon every
Yes.
Muslim, right?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
need to seek knowledge,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. SubhanAllah. Yeah, great. Amazing. Cool. Okay. So away from your work life now, away from social media, away from that stuff. What was your, like, because obviously work takes up a lot of time.
Uh-huh.
Like, let's just say that, like, especially in America, like,
Yeah.
we're always encouraged and pushed to like work.
Yeah.
Are you still involved in like the community aspect of anything? Like, I know you said you were MSA president in
Uh-huh.
college, but like in your life,
Uh-huh.
apart from work,
Yeah.
what's your life look like right now?
So that's actually a really good question because after college, you have a lot of free time. And in fact, especially me as a remote employee who was extroverted in college, it is tough.
Sure.
You need your people.
Sure.
And so, alhamdulillah, like I have a good community at my local masjid. I go every Thursday at least, and obviously for Friday Jummas, but every Thursday night there's like this halaqah type gathering in which we just kind of talk about various either Islamic ideas and like how it impacts our day-to-day life. Like we did a series on Yusuf alayhi salam and like kind of the lessons that we derive from there. I'm also kind of getting a little more involved with the masjid community. I'm inshallah hosting an event at the end of August to help people break into tech at the masjid.
Right.
And obviously like I have my social media authority to kind of like show that I'm like capable of doing that. And so, yeah, just once again, trying to have an impact wherever I can. I try to attend, like, I guess, like, really the masjid community. And, like, ICNA recently happened in Baltimore. During Ramadan, we went to different masjid events, halaqas, just meeting new people, sharing experiences. And it's just awesome to just talk to people in different walks of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair. Have you had experience working with like other fields through your computer science work? Like not just computer science?
Through work?
Yeah, I would say through work. Yeah.
Through work, I work with software engineers
Software
a lot.
engineer, other stuff.
I guess different fields per se, like product managers,
Yeah.
designers, upper level management, like directors, vice presidents.
Sure.
Yeah, so I'd say that I try to network a decent amount because especially I love talking to product managers because
Yeah.
they love talking in general.
Sure.
Sometimes software engineers can be a little introverted.
Yeah.
But product managers, their job is to be in meetings 24/7.
Yeah.
So they're great to talk to, you know?
Yeah.
And I've gotten like mentorship from principal software engineers. That's actually what helped me get like promoted relatively quickly at my job. Just learning from their experiences, learning what's important. Sometimes we even talk about, hey, like the real estate game is this, or like, hey, you should do that, or hey, we actually, like my company recently got acquired. Hey, this is how we can like navigate the situation. Here's what's happening, you know?
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff, man. Interesting stuff. Give me a little bit to think about. So, looking like at your next like 2 months, right?
Uh-huh.
I know you spent a little bit of time at SF now.
Yeah.
Seeing what's happening out here.
Yeah.
Has that changed your perspective on anything that you're doing, or?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I feel like a bum living at home now, you know, like I feel like I'm not doing anything now, you know?
Okay.
You know, in fact, right after graduation, I moved out here to SF to actually start the job that I currently work at.
This was
2022.
Okay.
And I really didn't like SF at the time.
Okay.
I was here kind of like by myself. I moved here for work, but like everyone was working remotely. So I was really just at my apartment, just kind of chilling, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't really meeting anyone. I wasn't really doing anything. So I ended up moving back and I hated SF. It just left a bad taste in my mouth. But I've been here for like 2 days now.
Yeah.
Best 2 days in SF I've been here.
Yeah.
Like the sheer number of people, or the sheer quality of people
Yeah.
that I've met, the ideas that they're working on,
Yeah.
like makes me feel like I'm not there. I need to get up there, you know?
Yeah.
Like alhamdulillah, like back at home, like usually like when I go out, like a lot of people tend to ask me for advice, but here when I go out, I'm asking everyone for advice because I feel like everyone is miles ahead of me and I have so much to learn, which is sometimes like a imposter syndrome, intimidating type feeling. But for me, it's like exciting. Like because not only do they love talking about what they want to talk about, I can benefit off of that. You know, and so huge perspective change. In fact, like I'd love to move to a city like SF now.
Yeah. So, how similar is that to your experience in like college? Because college is a time for like networking. You meet a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of interesting people. And like what I'm trying to get at is also like a lot of people who listen to this podcast are college age students, right? So it's like, how did you go about like figuring out like spaces that you need to go and meet people in? Because the world is a vast place.
Yeah.
You're supposed to meet people.
Yeah.
In Islam, we're told that the world, we were made you in different groups and clans for you to meet each other.
Yeah.
So like, what is your philosophy behind networking? Like, why and who and how?
I honestly fear stagnancy in my life. I fear like if I get to a point where I'm too comfortable, where I don't feel like I'm learning every day or at least every week or meeting someone interesting or having like unique experiences, then my life kind of plateaus. Like I always think like, has my life changed in the last couple of months or am I just kind of stagnating? And if I stayed in the current situation that I'm in where I'm working remotely at home, I'm just like producing social media content, a year from now, does my life really change?
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah.
It's going to pretty much be the same, at least mentally. That's what I think. And so like back to your question, how do we like find ways? Like you got to go to like these networking events. There's so many. There are plenty. Like the people I met here today.
Yeah.
I've talked with, and they're like, "Here, let me send you a networking list. Here, let me send you a networking list." And honestly, like also through social media, I've met a lot of like interesting people who talk to me about like these networking events. And so like you just gotta try out these events. You gotta put yourself out there. And in fact, going through to the masjid, there are people who have different qualifications, different experiences, and I've met like kind of interesting people through that. You just have to really put yourself out there. One thing I really loved about college, other than the people, was like the spontaneity.
You know, too spontaneous sometimes.
Exactly.
Oh
but I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. It's like right now, like my life, I feel is a little boring. Like I work at home. I just make social media. I go to the gym. Like it's almost like too routinized.
Sure.
But like literally yesterday, like we went to an event. We went to a restaurant. We went to another event. We tried to go to the Hassan Minaj show, which we failed epically at.
Yeah. You guys didn't get it?
No, we didn't.
I thought you got it?
No.
Oh,
we
man.
tried. We tried. But it was fine. Like we ended up going to a masjid, which is much better, right?
Yeah.
And then we ended up getting we went to an ice cream spot. I forgot the name, but it was amazing ice cream. We had like this mango lassi type ice cream, gulab jamun ice cream.
Yeah.
I've never had that before. Great experience, right?
Yeah.
And I never even that wasn't even planned. That's just so the amazing part of it. And like I was with people too, right?
So you see people like as a conduit for like change and development, like self-development. Like,
exactly.
'cause alone you can't. How are you ever going to change? How are you ever going to improve if the only thoughts you have are your thoughts?
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, you need people to bounce ideas off of, to talk to do podcasts with, right?
Yeah. That's a great example, actually. One man podcasts don't really work that often. So I think we're closing in on time. Yeah.
Okay.
I try to keep it underneath an hour because above an hour is like people get tired. I get tired. I get tired of hearing myself talk too. But I guess a couple of closing things that I want to talk about was how do you stay grounded during all this? Because CS is a very lucrative world. Yeah. Right. Again, we already chatted a little bit about like the aspect of like chasing the like dunya, or like making sure you're taking care of your religion, all that kind of stuff. But even like if you're not Muslim, right, you can lose yourself in things like social media, especially when you have a presence and like you get a lot of attention and like that stuff that comes with that, right? So it's like a responsibility to an amount of sorts. Like you have to be able to stay conscious of yourself and like what you're actually trying to accomplish, and not end up chasing something. I mean, no harm if you are trying to chase that, but it's not like you getting away from just thinking like, oh, it's just about the likes, or it's just about the comments, or it's just about the people. Like, how do you stay grounded? And I think we talked about this a little bit because you're very seemingly active in your community. Like you like real life things. Like it's not just about what the internet thinks. But like, what are your thoughts on like, staying rooted in the fact that this is still like a responsibility, and that
Yeah.
you're still trying to achieve what you're trying to achieve from the get-go,
Mhm.
and not losing yourself in that process,
Yeah.
especially at your age, because right now internet cloud's like the buzz.
Yeah.
Like, I heard the other day that someone was saying was like, there was a speaker here. They were talking about like how the new this was at Jummah. I'm not sure if you were here that day. He was talking about like how the new like commodity in the world is human capital.
And
Like
yeah.
we've moved past
Attention, right?
attention,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's like because that develops where people put their focus.
Yeah.
And wherever people put their focus is
the money flows.
money flows. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
like, how do you like check yourself almost?
Yeah.
You know.
I'll just start off by answering that like it's a work in progress.
Sure.
I'm not perfect by any means.
Right.
But to be honest, I genuinely do not care about the clout. Like
Sure.
it doesn't boost me up when someone say, "Hey, you do social media," or "Hey, do you want to take a picture with me?" Like
yeah.
it's honestly sometimes like a weird experience. Like, why do you want to take a picture with me? Like
Yeah.
I like.
I'm like a regular.
Yeah, like I get it if you want to take a picture with Steph Curry or like LeBron,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we're like, I like it honestly confuses me sometimes.
Yeah.
But I guess the part that sometimes gets to me is like I make a quality video. I want it to reach certain eyeballs because like
Mhm.
I feel like I sometimes understand. Like it's more of a like I feel like I understand the algorithm,
Mhm.
and sometimes when I fail at that, I'm like, what did I do wrong here? It's like a very, I guess, scientific based approach. I was like,
Sure.
these metrics hit. Like I got this average watch time, I got these shares, these things. This ratio was there, but the view count didn't hit there. What can I improve? What things can I try? Maybe I try a reaction based video to increase the watch time. Maybe I try an automated response theme so I can get more comments and all that. So it's very scientific rather than clout chasing. But like
Sure.
I genuinely don't care about that stuff because
Right.
that's not why I started in the first place.
Mhm.
I wanted to have an impact, and the biggest thing is like if I can grow my platform, if I can get more money, I can help more people.
Yeah.
And it's like if I am making videos that aren't like kind of growing my page, aren't getting those views, aren't getting those follows, well, that'll impact my ability to do that.
Yeah.
That'll impact my ability to like just grow in general.
Yeah.
And so I guess my mentality stirs from there. I just genuinely do not care about the clout.
Yeah.
But so that's where I focus. But within that, how do I try to stay grounded? So my battle's right there. How do I stay grounded?
Yeah.
That is where I try to remind myself that, first of all, if you make a video and it helps even one person, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Because although I might make a video and let's just say I only get 100 views,
Mhm.
right? Which could be good to some people, but like even if it's only 100 views, like if within that 100 views, one person be like, hey, that resume tip, let me know, fix my resume, let me use this format,
Mhm.
and I get a job, I can help feed my family, I can help do this. Like that is amazing, the thing you just did,
Mhm.
you know? Like 100 views, 100,000 views of just me just saying something random or like not having any true impact. Like that 100 views is way better than that 100K with no value.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So that's one aspect. Another aspect, I just have to remind myself, like, alhamdulillah, I'm very privileged to be in my position.
Yeah.
Like, I also just think about, like, 1 year ago today, I was making content. I probably would hit like about 100 videos at this point
Yeah.
with basically no traction on my page.
Yeah.
I would have loved to be in whatever position I'm in right now.
Right now, yeah.
Like alhamdulillah, I'm very privileged just for my previous self, and then my previous self is also very privileged compared to most of the world.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
I'm living I have a 9 to 5 software engineering job, and I'm doing social media on the side. Like a lot
Where
of people would love
You
to.
didn't mention I'm struggling to find food.
Yeah, exactly,
which
exactly.
is-
Like my struggles are nothing
Yeah,
compared to,
yeah.
especially what's going on in the world in the Gaza
Yeah.
and different places, right? Like I'm too privileged to complain.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
alhamdulillah.
That was a good piece of advice. Reminders to myself too. It's important because I'll close on this. Unless you have something to add after, but we often forget like this world is a test.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and if you think you're not being tested, you're probably being tested the most
Yeah.
because success and privilege and our word is success and privilege, but what it really is just ease of life.
Yeah.
Right. It is a test because it's easy to remember God when things are tough.
Yeah.
When things are like absolutely terrible, like you're like I need something to rely on. But when you're given everything in this world, you're being tested because what you do with that is a very, very big responsibility. And I really love that you're saying like I need to make more money so I can help people.
Yeah.
'Cause I think another thing we as a culture have made taboo almost
Uh-huh.
is like we tell all our kids to make tons of money,
Yeah.
like in our local. but we never talk about where the money goes,
Mm.
right? We never talk about like, and we're very taboo against saying like I want to make money. No, in Islam, like greed is one thing. I understand. We know about greed, but making money is not a problem.
Yeah.
And what
Muslims should be wealthy
We should be.
because we can have a big
yes,
impact.
and where we can flow the money.
Yeah.
right.
Like we have a mandatory zakah we have to pay, right?
And it's the biggest transaction globally that ever occurs on a single day.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay,
it's
wow.
like there's no transaction. When an entire year goes by, the largest transaction that occurs globally.
Yeah.
Is
Let's make it bigger.
Yeah, let's make it bigger, right? Have more money flow because
Yeah.
then we can actually start enacting those kind of changes, and we should talk about that transparently. Like
Yeah,
it is good.
100%.
You should shoot to make more money, without obviously not diluting, but trying your best not to make that money come from a haram means.
Oh, for sure.
That's what I mean. But if you can do that, and as we edges our way closer and closer to making even more and more of a perfect integrated system, like internal system, like Alif, which is trying to get Muslim VCs to back Muslim companies, to back Muslim founders, which the Muslim founders are going to create products that Muslims are going to use, then more and more people would be taken care of in that loop.
Yeah.
So I really like what you said about that was, it's a very like positive cycle, right?
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
cool. I don't know if you have anything else you left to share, generally speaking. If you,
I guess one last point on the last question you asked me is, there's also another verse I love to kind of remind myself is alaysa lil insani illa ma sa'a, that human beings will have nothing going for them except for their efforts. So Allah, like human beings, we care so much about people's results. Like, what do you put on your resume? This is my past experience. I drove these results. I made this much money for this company. This is why you should hire me. For Allah, on the day of judgment, He cares what efforts did you put in my cause. You know, Nuh alayhi salam, he had like less than 100 converts who came to him. But Allah will honor him so much so because of the efforts, the 950 years he went out in Allah's cause. That's the most beloved. So like, if you're making the right efforts, if you're doing the right things, even if you don't see that social media growth, even if you don't see the dollars flowing in, just you making, you just trying to make a change
with the right intentions.
With the right intention is so beloved in Allah's sight.
Yeah.
So you're winning regardless, right?
Valid. I like that.
Yeah.
Very important to keep in mind, especially in like the career-driven world.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I'm glad you brought that up. Actually, I'm not reminded of that enough. Cool. Well, jazakallah khair.
Thank you.
That was a great episode. Thank you for coming on. Inshallah, see you guys in the next episode. I hope you guys pulled away a couple cool, interesting tidbits for Sajjaad.
Yeah.
Appreciate it again.
Thank you guys.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.